This is my current anti-static provision. Basically, it is it looks like about 2 foot by 500 millimeters, I think. Yeah, so 600 by 500 anti-static bench, and you know, it's heat resistant and all that sort of stuff. And attached to it is the obligatory wrist strap to a press stud in the corner. So so that served me quite well, actually. But one of the first things that I immediately disliked about it, not sure how close we are going to get here, is it has a surface texture. Now they say this is great because it stops things slipping around. Maybe that's true. But the recent repair of a tape recorder has made a complete and utter disgusting mess of the whole thing. So I decided that enough was enough. It was time to upgrade this. Unfortunately, to achieve that upgrade, I have to clear my bench. Why? Because the upgrade is going to be a full end-to-end anti-static rubberized mat. So it will be a 2-layer mat, the same as this. So on the back there is the conductive layer. On the front there is the dissipative layer, which is also heat resistant. So that will go from end to end, and then turn the corner and go right along this bench as well. The end bench over there won't be done, and that's because that is actually used for chemical work and things like that. It's being used as a storage area at the moment. Today is going to be a long day. So I've just been totting up, and I think it's 5 years since I last saw the top of this bench. So there it is. I've given it a wipe down with some alcohol because I wanted to remove any roughness that might go underneath the new matting. And this has seen stelastics, glues, coffee, heat sink compounds and all sorts of things on it in its day, but it's cleaned up very nicely. Pleased with that. I'm going to get the roll of stuff out now. Yep, so there we go, one full roll of anti-static matting with a smooth finish this time, so that I can clean it much more easily. That was probably the only thing I didn't like about the old one, which was that the textured surface was nice to begin with, but very, very rapidly it started getting absolutely caked with muck and dirt, and it was very hard to keep clean. So somewhere when I bought this, I also purchased a bottle of cleaner to go with it. I also bought some anti-static brushes and things as well, because they had a very good price on them. So there we go, a full 10 metre roll. Now I know you're thinking, hang on a minute, you don't need 10 metres. But I got a quote for 6 metres, and it was more than a full 10 metre roll. So basically having them cut it cost more. So definitely something to watch out for. Now a benefit of that is that with this I'll get some loose mats that I can pop around, and I'll also be able to use some of this in some containers that I want to be particularly anti-static. Just use it as drawer liners and things like that as well. And of course I'll have some spare if I make a mess of it. So so next thing is to cut it to length, and then I've got to attach a press stud to it. So what I've done is I've laid this along the length. I have folded back about 8 inches at the far end, because of course I can't get properly into the corner to cut it in the right place. At this end I've got my trusty large square out. If you haven't got one of these, line it up very neatly with the front edge of your bench, and then measure from the wall in, let's say, 8 inches. From the wall in 8 inches, and do your cut that way. Just make sure you leave enough excess on the other end that you can trim that up later to get it exactly right. Okay, there we go. I'll just do the last little bit. Okay, that should be us. And oh, it's still really, really heavy. My bench is about 750, and this is a 600 wide. And I decided against getting the 750. 2 reasons. One was cost. The 600 is very cost effective. The other is, you know, the other side of the room is all 600 benching, And finally, I don't actually put any static sensitive stuff down in this area. This is all computer monitors and soldering stations and boxes of things. In terms of position for my earth connection on this, I'm actually going to go about here, which is sort of above the table leg. That should be nicely out the way. I'm not going to put one on the front. And my wrist strip isn't going to connect to this. It might, but it probably won't connect to this anymore. I will actually bring out underneath my bench in this area here. I'm planning to mount an actual, plug-in 4mm earth point just down there. If there's one thing that is going to generate a load of static, it's removing this film from the back. Oh, this is the most static this room has had in it since I built it. The hairs on my arms are literally on end. Okay, so I was originally going to punch through from this side and fasten the fastener on from this side, and then I realised I can't actually do that, so yeah, I'll turn it over. So yeah, so I like that nice surface. I just need to punch some holes in it now. So I've never done this before. Should I do it on a piece of scrap first, or should I just take a risk? Oh, just take a risk. So I'm going to punch a hole just here, I hope. Yep, that worked. Whew. These are 13mm press studs. And yeah, they come in 4 parts. You can get them with screw fixings if you want to kind of screw them onto something like an aluminium plate or something like that as well. I just need to get the relevant 2 pieces that go together. So here we go. I'm hoping we can see these two. So this one goes underneath the mat and pushes through the hole. This piece, which is the male stud, goes on top. They're sandwiched together, and then we have to kind of wind over the bottom one to hold it in place. So first I have to try and get this through the hole that I just punched. And it's a tight fit, which I suppose is a good thing. And then we have to press this one down really tight on top of it. And then we have a 2-part tool. So there's a piece here that goes underneath, which has a bit of a shape on it. And there's this one, which goes in the top piece, which has a little pointy bit, and it curves over the ends of the first job is to get that lined up. Pop that on there. Pop this on here. Move this cable out of the way. And hammer it down. And at the end of that, we have one very, very tightly attached press stud super. So I'm just going to stick one of these on here, a fair way away on the bottom. Stick this one on here. There we go. So this is the furthest corner to the press stud is just under, well, yeah, 90k, something like that. So yeah, that's good. That's perfectly good connection and perfectly good conductivity. Now the top, of course, of this, if I just bring that back in there, is basically an insulator. I wasn't 100% sure. I was happy that this was not going to end up moving about a bit and getting creases in it with it being a long length, so or little bumps, and that I would end up endlessly adjusting them out. So I have taped the front edge. I actually taped it with this thin tape, which isn't designed for that. This is a tape which is designed for fastening things onto vinyl drops for photographers and people like that. But yeah, it's absolutely fine. It's just a double-sided tape. So to fit that, I used one of these. It's set to about 18mm, something like that. I just put a few dots on the front, 18mm in, to give me the line, and lined up the cover very, very accurately with those. Made sure it's nice and flat, and then folded it back 50%, put the tape on about 1/4 inch behind those dots, and then just folded it forward again. So that, because I didn't want to introduce any stretch into it or anything like that. This is essentially rubber, and it will deform if you're not cautious with it. So there we go, lovely, smooth, clean surface. How long will it stay that way? So there we go. I'm not going to do the other bench today, I don't think. I need to do some actual work, and I want to sort out some stuff for my screwdrivers as they go back. I'll put some links into the suppliers that I used down below. They're Elcom in the UK. It's not cheap, but it's also not cheap to ruin your expensive electronic components. So, and this was the most cost-effective way that I could find for doing this type of surface area. Fitting a press stud is no real problem. You can get a kit of studs off Amazon. Again, I'll link that in. And obviously the cleaner that I mentioned before as well. So obviously you don't have to get this particular make. There's loads of them, but you do want one that is specifically for ESD products. Okay, are we there with that? I think we are. So if you learned something there, if you enjoyed that, then please give that a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe. Comments down below, of course, as usual. And I'll see you next time. Take care.